Hey, I noticed you haven't been playing fighting games recently. Why's that? Never mention those ever again. Huh? You mean fighting games? Okay, what part of don't mention do you not understand? Well, I didn't know what you meant by those, but why? Did you lose in them so hard that you gave up on them? No, that's not it. They just feel too modernized. Are you old or something? What do you mean modernized? Don't you see it? The lack of excitement when a new fighting game is in the horizon. The plethora of old players leaving the genre. The entire genre feeling pretty still even after a huge wave of heavy hitters. Need I go on? Please do. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Fighting games to me is such a fascinating genre. I love the classics like the pre-3D King of Fighters games, Street Fighter 3, the Street Fighter Alpha series, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and so on. But when I play fighting games now, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy them and there are a lot of quality of life changes in them. But I can't help but feel like there's been a drastic change in them. And in a sense, it feels like this was an overnight change too. Here's the issue I see with modern fighting games. They're getting a bit too modern. And although you would think that's a good thing, in some cases, yes. But what that also means is, much of the charm that caused me to become a fighting game fan started to fade away. Bear in mind, I got into fighting games not too long ago, around 2019. The first game I truly got interested in was BlazBlue Cross Tag. A friend of mine showed me the ropes, I started playing, and then I remembered not too long ago, a Dragon Ball fighting game came out. I played so much out of that game, on Switch nonetheless, but I started wanting to know more about fighting games. This was also around the time Terry got into Smash, which basically gave me an interest in looking at the older KOF titles. At the same time, I was interested in a certain fighting game called Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I tried it out, and I came to love that game more than any fighting game I've played thus far. And the strange part, apart from the old KOF games, Marvel vs. Capcom played nothing like the fighting games I've played so far, at least in terms of its controls.
So you just said an entire anecdote just to say the modern controls of fighting games are the problem?
Yes. Fighting games before the mid to late 2010s had a very different approach to its controls. It didn't really cater towards quote-unquote beginners, but rather, it was more like you learn what you can. This genre of games are probably the most complex type of games you can get good at. Sure, rhythm games are also tough, and there are platformers that can get really hard, but fighting games were like the final boss of getting good. And the reason is simply because you more or less face someone else. No game will go exactly the same. Every option you do matters in the match. And your mental state can also influence how a match can go. And to top it all off, controls were the most unique thing about these games. In the past, fighting games only had input commands as the main way of controlling. But here's the thing. Why did playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and by extension, the old Street Fighter and KOF games captivate me so much compared to the games I started off with? To put it lightly, it was rewarding knowing how to control the game at a decent level. I'm no pro and I don't think I'll ever reach that status, especially with those games. But knowing how to do those inputs, comboing into something manually, and feeling pretty rewarded for doing all that is a feeling that doesn't feel as good with modern controls. Of course, there are many more factors that make these games appealing, but to me, the controls had to be one of the most appealing factors. I made 2 entire videos talking about them after all. In the modern day, the fighting game genre isn't niche anymore. Don't get me wrong, I don't think they ever were truly niche, but they aren't the type of games you would be talking to your friends at school about. However, now you'd see many people interested in the genre more than ever. Whether that's because of the amount of new games coming out, the influence of some YouTubers people watch, or the influence of Smash adding all these fighting game reps, the genre is bigger than ever before. But because of this, there are a lot of people with no past with fighting games getting interested. In an attempt to not scare them away, many modern fighting games opted to go for something called modern controls. Now what I will say is, I'm aware that games like Fighters and Cross Tag aren't necessarily modern controls. They are games that have simplified controls as the main control. And to me, that's when auto combos and such are at its best. Games that are specifically built for string-like combat rather than input-heavy controls are where auto combos work the most. But someone explained to me why Street Fighter, the game that made input commands big in the first place, decided to make modern controls a thing. Again, I get that making the game a little beginner friendly is great, but why get rid of a legacy thing like that? Does it particularly help newcomers? Not necessarily. Would it motivate them to play more? Who knows? But it certainly won't stop them from choosing the same options a lot of the time. I tried the modern controls before, and to me, they feel very limiting to what the game has in store. You have all these commands, inputs, moves you can do in certain situations, and you basically shave it off for newcomers. I think that's a bit contradictory to letting people learn what the full potential of the game really is. And sure, maybe this isn't a feature only aimed at newcomers. Maybe people genuinely like this control style. And to that I say, well, at least you like something I don't. But overall, this really doesn't help fighting games all that much, does it?
Eeb? And don't even get me started in fighting games adding battle passes. That in particular makes the game unappealing. Eeb! What? You didn't have to scream, we're pretty close. You know you don't have to care about any of that stuff, right? Fighting games aren't dying because of that, you know. In fact, they aren't dying at all. What? I've been trying to tell you the entire time. You were too inside your head. You mean, there's nothing really wrong with them? Yes. No way. You mean, I can play these games without caring about these features? The only one keeping you from playing them was yourself. Okay, then let's go now!